She said it so casually, like she was talking to the air. I missed the old days, but the way her voice softened on missed made me look up from the porch step, and for a second, I forgot what I was supposed to be doing. Her name was Elena, though everyone on our street called her Mrs. Carver, my neighbor's aunt. Mid-40s, maybe older, depending on the light. She had that calm kind of beauty that made silence feel full. When she moved, it wasn't fast. It was deliberate, like every gesture had a memory attached to it. I was 23, home from college, working odd hours at the auto shop. The kind of summer where time stretches too long and you start noticing things you didn't before, like how she'd water her plants in the evenings. Barefoot, a loose linen shirt rolled up to her elbows, hair tied but never tight. She'd wave when I passed, sometimes ask about my mother, or if the noise from her nephew's garage band was too much. It wasn't, not compared to the quiet that followed when she went inside. That afternoon, she asked me to help move an old box from her attic. Nothing big. A few minutes, she'd said. Inside, the air smelled faintly of dust and vanilla, her perfume, mixed with wood. The box turned out heavier than it looked, and as I lifted, she steadied one side. Her hand brushed the inside of my wrist. Light, accidental, but it stayed a moment longer than it needed to. Neither of us said anything. When I set the box down, she smiled, polite, grateful, but there was something tired in her eyes. The kind of tired that doesn't come from work. These are from when I used to teach dance, she said, pulling out old records. The sleeves were yellowed, soft at the edges. She ran her thumb across one cover like she was tracing a face. You taught dance? I asked. I tried to, she said with a small laugh. Before everything got too busy. Before I forgot how to move for myself. Her words hung there, light but heavy somehow. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't. I just watched her slide a record halfway out of its sleeve. Her fingers trembled a little. Do you dance? She asked suddenly. Not really, I said. Never learned. She nodded, eyes still on the record. Most people don't. Not properly. The needle crackled when she dropped it on the turntable. A soft, old song started, slow, dusty jazz that made the air feel closer. She turned toward me, a faint smile in her eyes. Would you like to learn? My throat went dry. Now? Why not? I hesitated, but she stepped forward, took my hand, her touch warm, unhurried. She placed my other hand against her waist, guiding it like she'd done it 1,000 times before. Just follow the rhythm, she whispered. Her voice brushed against me softer than the music. I tried to move right, but my steps were clumsy. She laughed quietly, her breath close to my cheek. You're overthinking it. The song wrapped around us, slow, echoing. Her hand rested against my shoulder, steadying me when I misstepped. I could feel the pulse in her wrist through our joined hands. For a second, the world outside the attic disappeared. Just dust motes floating through light, her hair loose around her face, and the soft press of her fingers at the back of my neck when she adjusted my stance. Then, a sound from downstairs. The front door creaked open. We both froze. Her hand stayed in mine a second too long before she pulled away. Quietly, like nothing had happened. But it had. And it was only just beginning. The next few days I tried not to think about that dance. Tried and failed. Every time I walked past her porch, I half expected to see her waiting with another record in hand. But she didn't call me over again. Just a polite nod, a faint smile, and that was all. Still, something had shifted. When I worked in the yard, I could feel her eyes sometimes, not staring, just watching. The way people do when they're remembering something they shouldn't. One evening, she caught me looking back. She didn't turn away. A few nights later, I heard her car in the driveway after dark. She was carrying groceries. Too many bags for one person, so I went to help without thinking. She looked surprised when I appeared at her gate. You don't have to. I know, I said. But I want to. Inside her kitchen, the lights were soft, yellow against the dimness. She poured wine, one glass, then hesitated, poured another. It's been a long day, she said, not quite meeting my eyes. I asked her about her work. She said she did bookkeeping from home now. Less stress, she said. More quiet. There was a pause. She sipped her wine. Too much quiet sometimes. She said it like she hadn't meant to. I asked about her husband before I could stop myself. She didn't look offended. Just thoughtful. We divorced 5 years ago, she said. He wanted someone younger. I wanted space. Her fingers traced the rim of her glass. Funny how space turns into silence if you let it. I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. She smiled faintly. And you? Any heartbreaks at 23? I laughed under my breath. A few almosts. Nothing that stuck. Almosts are dangerous, she murmured. They make you believe you could have had something if you just tried a little harder. Her words landed heavier than she probably meant. She looked at me for a long time after that. The kind of look that feels like it's peeling you open, seeing what's underneath. When she turned away to put the wine bottle back, her shoulder brushed mine, soft, deliberate, maybe not. I couldn't tell anymore. She reached for a cabinet, stretching slightly, her sleeve sliding down her arm. There was a faint scar near her wrist. Without thinking, I asked, "What happened there?" She glanced down, then smiled, almost shyly.
A kitchen accident.
Years ago. I keep forgetting it's there. But her voice trembled a little. I nodded, pretending not to notice. She closed the cabinet and leaned back against the counter. Close enough that I could feel the warmth from her arm. "I shouldn't keep you," she said quietly. "It's late." "I don't mind," I said. We stood there, too near, too still, the clock ticking somewhere behind us. She looked at me then. Really looked, her breath catching just once. "I know," she said softly, almost to herself. Before I could ask what she meant, she reached past me. Her hand grazing my shoulder, light but electric, to switch off the light. The room dimmed to a quiet blue glow from the window. Neither of us moved. That was the moment, the pause, when something wordless began to settle between us. Not said, not acted on, but alive. The next afternoon, I saw her again by accident or maybe not. She was standing in her driveway, hair pulled back, watering the plants like she used to. The sun caught her skin in that way that makes everything look slower. I almost kept walking. I should have. But she turned, saw me and smiled. Small, uncertain. "Hey," she said. "I still owe you for the help the other night." I shook my head. "You don't owe me anything." "Maybe not," she said softly. "But come in anyway." I made coffee. Inside, it smelled like cinnamon and rain. A storm was rolling in, gray light filtering through the curtains. She set 2 mugs on the table and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Neither of us spoke for a while. The quiet wasn't awkward, it was heavy, like we were both waiting for something to happen and afraid it actually might. Finally, she said, "You shouldn't come by so often. People will start to talk." I tried to sound casual. "Do you care what they say?" She looked up sharply, then softer. "You should." The thunder outside swallowed the silence that followed. Her phone buzzed on the counter. A message lit the screen. "Coming by soon. Need to borrow your drill." It was her nephew, my friend. She glanced at me, then at the clock. "He'll be here in 10 minutes. Something in her tone, quiet panic, restrained, made my pulse pick up. "Then I should—" "Wait," she said. Her hand caught my wrist. Just for a second. Enough. We both froze at the contact. Her thumb brushed lightly against my skin. An unthinking gesture that felt too familiar, too dangerous. The thunder cracked again, closer this time. She didn't move. Neither did I. "I don't know what we're doing," she whispered. "Neither do I." She let go slowly but didn't step back. The air between us felt charged, full of everything we weren't saying. "You make me feel—" she started, then stopped herself. "It's not fair." "To who?" I asked. "To you," she said. Her voice was shaking now. "You're young. You don't—" I took a step closer. "Don't what?" Her breath hitched. I could see her eyes dart to my mouth, then away. She reached out, like she meant to steady herself. Her fingers grazing my collar, tracing a line she didn't finish. The front door creaked. We jumped apart. "Hey, Aunt Elena!" A voice called from the hall. Her eyes locked on mine, wide, caught between fear and something else. "In here," she managed, her voice steady but thin. Her nephew appeared, oblivious, smiling. "Oh, hey, man. Didn't know you were here." "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "Just fixing the coffee." He laughed, said something about the storm, grabbed the drill, and left as quickly as he'd come. The silence after the door closed was deafening. Elena leaned against the table, eyes closed, exhaling slow. "This has to stop," she whispered. I nodded, but neither of us moved. The rain started, hard against the windows. She looked at me again, torn open by her own restraint. I should have left, but instead, I reached for the mug she'd made me, fingers brushing hers. Neither of us pulled away this time. The space between us shrank, word by word, breath by breath, until stopping felt impossible. The rain didn't stop that night. It came down in long, heavy waves, like the sky was trying to drown the quiet between us. She'd said it had to stop, but when I came to return her mug later, she opened the door like she'd been waiting. "Come in," she said softly. The lights were low. A candle burned on the counter, half melted, casting shadows across her face. "You shouldn't be here," she said, but she didn't sound like she believed it. "I know." Her hair was damp from the rain. A strand stuck to her cheek. Without thinking, I reached up and brushed it back. My fingers grazed her skin. She didn't move. The sound of the storm wrapped around us. Every second stretched thin. "Elena," I said. She looked up, eyes dark, unreadable. "You need to stop saying my name like that." "Like what?" "Like it means something." I swallowed. "Maybe it does." She closed her eyes, exhaled through her nose, like she was fighting something invisible. "You don't understand. This—" "I do," I said quietly. "You think I don't feel it?" That stopped her. The thunder rolled closer now. She turned away, gripping the edge of the counter, shoulders trembling just slightly. "You're making this harder than it should be. You're the one who called me in." Her laugh was sharp, then soft again, breaking somewhere in the middle. "You think I don't hate myself for that?" I took a step closer. The scent of rain and her perfume mixed, warm, dizzying. "Then why do it?" She turned, fast, eyes bright, voice low and fierce. "Because you look at me like I'm still someone worth wanting." The words hit like static. Neither of us moved. Then she shook her head, whispering, "You don't know what that does to me." I did, though. I could feel it in the air, in the way her breath caught when I got too close, in the way her fingers twitched when she tried not to touch me. I stepped in, slowly, until the space between us was gone. Her hand pressed against my chest. Not pushing, just resting there, as if to feel the heartbeat she was trying to deny. "Tell me to leave," I said. She didn't. The candle flickered. The rain softened to a hiss. Her eyes flicked to my lips, then up again. "This will ruin everything," she whispered. "Maybe everything needs to be ruined," I said. For a heartbeat, she leaned in, close enough that I felt her breath against my jaw, her voice barely a vibration when she said, "Don't." But she didn't move away either. The tension wound tight, fragile. Then, a sudden knock at the door. We froze. Her hand dropped. My pulse hammered. "Elena?" A voice called. A neighbor, older, familiar. She looked at me, panic flickering across her face, then whispered, "Go, please." I didn't move. She took my hand, pressed it once, hard, desperate, and whispered, "Tomorrow." Then she opened the door, and everything that hadn't happened yet burned hotter for it. The next morning, I couldn't stay still. I told myself I'd only walk past her house, maybe catch a glimpse, maybe not. But the curtains were drawn tight, no sign of her. By late afternoon, I gave in. I knocked. No answer. I turned to leave when the door cracked open. She stood there, her hair unbrushed, eyes red-rimmed like she hadn't slept. "Elena?" "Come in," she said quietly. Inside, the air was heavy, Not like before. Something was off. On the table sat an opened envelope, papers spread out in uneven piles. She noticed me looking. "It's from my ex-husband," she said flatly. "He wants to sell the house." I didn't know what to say. She laughed once, short and tired. "Guess he finally figured out I wasn't coming back." She moved past me to the window, arms crossed tight. "I've been pretending I was fine, that I liked the quiet, that I didn't need anyone." The silence after that was deep. I took a step toward her. "You don't have to pretend." She turned then, sharply, eyes glassy but defiant. "Don't make this about me." "It is about you," I said. "It's been about you since that first day on the porch." Her jaw tightened. "You don't even know who I am." "Then tell me," I said. "Tell me what I don't know." She hesitated, then looked at the papers again. "He cheated on me, more than once, and I stayed because I thought I could fix it. Thought I could be enough." Her voice broke halfway through. She looked away fast, wiping at her cheek. I stepped closer, but she held up a hand. "Don't." Her fingers trembled. Not in anger, but fear. "You shouldn't see me like this." "I already have," I said quietly. Something in her shifted then. A breath, a soft surrender. She turned toward me, and for the first time she didn't look guarded, just raw. "I heard you last night," she said suddenly. "When you left, you said my name." I froze. "You heard that?" Her lips parted, almost a smile. "You shouldn't say things like that when you think no one's listening." The air thickened. She took a step forward, slow, deliberate, until her hand brushed against my sleeve. "You make me remember what it feels like to be wanted." I felt her words more than heard them. The tremor in her breath, the way her fingertips lingered. "Elena," I whispered, but my voice barely came out. She looked up at me, eyes shining. "I told myself I wouldn't let this happen. And now." Her hand slipped from my arm to my chest. Not gently this time. "Now I don't know how to stop." The distance between us disappeared again. Her breath hit my collarbone. I could feel the warmth of it, smell the faint trace of her perfume. But before I could move, her phone buzzed loud. Sharp. She stepped back, fast. On the screen, "Call me. We need to talk." From her ex. Her face went pale. "He's coming here," she whispered. "He can't see you." "Elena, please, not now." Her voice cracked on the last word. I hesitated, every nerve screaming to stay. Then she whispered, low, pleading, "Come back tonight." And for the first time, she didn't look afraid of what that meant. The storm had passed, but the air that night still carried its weight. Humid, charged, and waiting. When I reached her house, every light was off except one, glowing faintly through the thin curtains. I stood there a moment, unsure if I should knock, if I even had the right to. Then the door opened. She was already there. Barefoot, robe tied loosely, hair falling around her shoulders like she hadn't meant to fix it. Her expression was unreadable, caught between relief and regret. "You came," she said. "You asked me to." Her breath hitched. She stepped aside, letting me in. The room was dim, just one lamp on, the faint sound of the night insects outside. Neither of us spoke. We didn't need to. Everything unsaid filled the air between us. Heavy, trembling. She moved first, closer, slowly, like she was afraid the space might break if she crossed it too fast. Her hand lifted, almost touching my chest before she pulled it back. "I shouldn't," she whispered. "I know." We stood there, inches apart, the air thick with what we weren't saying. I could smell her skin. Faint jasmine, rain, something warm and familiar. Her eyes searched mine, steady, frightened, wanting. "You don't understand what this would mean for me," she said, voice shaking. "Then tell me," I said. "Tell me to stop." She looked at me like she might, and then didn't. Instead, she reached up, brushed her fingers along my jaw. Her hand lingered, trembling slightly. "I thought I was done feeling like this," she said. "Like I could still ruin something. Maybe some things are worth ruining, I said softly. Her lips parted, but no words came. I felt the warmth of her breath, close enough that the space between us was a heartbeat wide. Then she stepped in, fully this time, her forehead resting against mine. The contact was small, but it was everything. "I'm scared," she whispered. "So am I." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of want, of fear, of all the times we'd pretended not to notice. Her hand slid to the back of my neck, fingers curling slightly. I could feel the tension in her, the push and pull, the quiet war between holding on and letting go. "Elena," I said, my voice barely sound. She shook her head, eyes glistening. "Don't make me decide for both of us." "I won't." She looked at me one last time, long enough to memorize something, then closed her eyes. Her hand slipped away. She stepped back, just one pace, but it felt like miles. "I can't," she said. "Not like this. Not when I don't trust myself." I nodded, even as it broke something open in me. We stood in that charged silence, knowing what almost happened, what would always live in the almost. Finally, she reached out, touched my face once more. Tender, deliberate. "You'll understand someday," she whispered, "what it means to want and still walk away." And when I left, the night was utterly still. For the first time, we both understood the same thing. That what we didn't do would haunt us longer than what we ever could have. Weeks passed. The air turned lighter, the days longer, but something in me stayed caught in that last night. The way she'd looked at me before stepping back, the quiet strength in her voice when she said no. I didn't go to her house after that. Not for a while. I'd see her sometimes from across the street, tending her garden again, hair tied up, sleeves rolled. She waved once, faintly, and I waved back. Both of us pretending that nothing had ever almost happened. But it had. And pretending didn't make it any less real. One evening, just as the sun started to fade, I heard her voice again. "Hey!" she called from her porch. It had been so long that the sound made me pause mid-step. She was standing there, framed by gold light, wearing a soft sweater and that same calm expression. Except this time, it didn't hide anything. "Coffee?" she asked. My chest tightened. "You sure that's a good idea?" She smiled small, knowing. "Probably not. But come anyway." Inside, everything looked the same records, same scent of vanilla and wood, but it felt different. Lighter somehow. She handed me a cup, sat across from me. "I've been thinking about that night," she said quietly. "About what I said." "So have I admitted." She nodded, fingers tracing the edge of her mug. "I wasn't ready then. I needed to figure out if what I wanted was real, or just loneliness pretending to be something else. And now," she looked at me, steady this time, no fear in it. "Now I know what's real." The quiet between us stretched again, but it wasn't tense anymore. It was soft, full of understanding. I reached across the table, my hand finding hers. She didn't pull away. Her fingers were warm, firm, certain. She sighed, that deep kind of sigh that sounds like release, and said, "You've grown up fast." "Not fast," I said. "Just differently." She smiled at that, eyes glinting. "You still make me feel seen. You always did." We sat there, hands still joined, saying nothing else. The sun dipped lower, shadows softening around us. Finally, she stood, walked around the table, and stopped behind my chair. Her hand slid over my shoulder, then to my cheek. I turned slightly, enough for our eyes to meet again. The same look from before, but this time, there was no fear hiding beneath it. She leaned down, brushed her lips against my forehead, slow, steady, lingering just long enough to say everything words couldn't. When she pulled back, she whispered, "No more running." I reached up, caught her hand before she could step away. "Then don't." She smiled, the kind that lives in your chest long after it's gone. Then she sat beside me, shoulder to shoulder, our hands still intertwined, watching the last of the light fade across the floor. No grand ending, no music cue, just the quiet truth of two people who finally stopped pretending. And maybe that was enough. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Weeks passed. The air turned lighter, the days longer, but something in me stayed caught in that last night. The way she'd looked at me before stepping back, the quiet strength in her voice when she said no. I didn't go to her house after that. Not for a while. I'd see her sometimes from across the street, tending her garden again, hair tied up, sleeves rolled. She waved once, faintly, and I waved back. Both of us pretending that nothing had ever almost happened. But it had. And pretending didn't make it any less real. One evening, just as the sun started to fade, I heard her voice again. "Hey!" she called from her porch. It had been so long that the sound made me pause mid-step. She was standing there, framed by gold light, wearing a soft sweater and that same calm expression. Except this time, it didn't hide anything. "Coffee?" she asked. My chest tightened. "You sure that's a good idea?" She smiled small, knowing. "Probably not. But come anyway." Inside, everything looked the same records, same scent of vanilla and wood, but it felt different. Lighter somehow. She handed me a cup, sat across from me. "I've been thinking about that night," she said quietly. "About what I said." "So have I admitted." She nodded, fingers tracing the edge of her mug. "I wasn't ready then. I needed to figure out if what I wanted was real, or just loneliness pretending to be something else. And now," she looked at me, steady this time, no fear in it. "Now I know what's real." The quiet between us stretched again, but it wasn't tense anymore. It was soft, full of understanding. I reached across the table, my hand finding hers. She didn't pull away. Her fingers were warm, firm, certain. She sighed, that deep kind of sigh that sounds like release, and said, "You've grown up fast." "Not fast," I said. "Just differently." She smiled at that, eyes glinting. "You still make me feel seen. You always did." We sat there, hands still joined, saying nothing else. The sun dipped lower, shadows softening around us. Finally, she stood, walked around the table, and stopped behind my chair. Her hand slid over my shoulder, then to my cheek. I turned slightly, enough for our eyes to meet again. The same look from before, but this time, there was no fear hiding beneath it. She leaned down, brushed her lips against my forehead, slow, steady, lingering just long enough to say everything words couldn't. When she pulled back, she whispered, "No more running." I reached up, caught her hand before she could step away. "Then don't." She smiled, the kind that lives in your chest long after it's gone. Then she sat beside me, shoulder to shoulder, our hands still intertwined, watching the last of the light fade across the floor. No grand ending, no music cue, just the quiet truth of two people who finally stopped pretending. And maybe that was enough. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?